Where are you going?
Hey everyone, it's Sky here, and welcome to part 3 of our August color along. At this point, I'm pretty sure you've probably been following along if you're watching this. So we have been working in Maui Mermaids by Hannah Lynn, and the page that we have been doing is Tiger Lily Mermaid. I am absolutely loving how she's turning out. I don't usually use oranges a lot, but I do love how they look, especially these bright oranges. Absolutely love it, and this is so far turning out exactly how I pictured her, so knock on wood that it continues like that. So we are just going to dive right on in and continue on her hair, which is where we left off last time. So let me just get my pencils situated here. Okay. So we're going to come in with the cream first, and we are going to layer it very lightly over top of the section that we're going to be focusing on, which is this one right here. This little bit here is a leaf coming out from the lily plant, so we don't want to color that brown. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to work our way through our colors from lightest to dark and kind of map out where they're going to lay. So I'm going to come in with the burnt ochre first. And we're going to start popping that in on either side of these strands, leaving a middle highlight here with just the cream. And that's kind of going to be our guide. I'm not even going to use the cream. If you guys remember last time, we didn't even use the cream to burnish or anything. We did on one strand, didn't really like it, so now that's just our guide color. So as long as we have our cream there, our chances of keeping that highlight and not going too dark are a lot better. Okay, there is the burnt ochre. Next we're moving on to the terracotta. So I'm going to bring this up pretty much right close to where I left off with the burnt ochre. Again, this is another way we're allowing ourselves room to make sure that those highlights join, because we're layering with the terracotta and the sienna brown, which are actually going to act as one pencil together. We're going to use them to mix, so we're not really going to see those colors separately. I'm going to come in with the Sienna Brown, same thing, except we're just not going to bring it up as much. We're going to skip our second darkest color and go straight in with our black because now we've mapped out enough to kind of know where we need it. So I'm going to come in heavy at first with the black, kind of a medium pressure, and then I'm going to slowly lighten it up and fade it out. I'm not going to put in too much here. Our light would kind of be hitting these wavy bits here quite a bit. This side will hopefully be a little bit lighter, that's my plan anyways, without it being too noticeable. I'm hoping to make it seem lighter without looking different. So that is my goal for this. And we'll see if I can do it. Then of course everything on this side, just gotta do the same way that we have been. So we might even use the cream for everything on this side. Our next color is the dark umber. So we're going to bring this in over top of our black, and we're going to bring it out a little ways. Again, not going to put too much darkness on these ones. Just enough to blend our other colors into. Okay, there we go. Very lightly flick whatever dust there is off. In with the sienna brown. For this one, I'm going to use a little bit of a heavy pressure coming out from that dark umber, but for the most part, I'm going to keep this to a medium pressure because, again, this is going to mix with the terracotta to create more of a reddish color. So we don't want to burnish this. Don't want to bring this color out too much here either. I really want to do my best to save this highlight here. Next is the terracotta. Again, this is going to go with sienna brown, so I'm not going to bring this out any farther. I'm just going to bring it in over top. And they work together to create this gorgeous reddish brown. It's absolutely beautiful. And I think this is the color that helps really kind of complement those lilies. Next, we can come in with the burnt ochre. And for all of these ones here, I'm just going to bring that burnt ochre in. I'm going to go over anywhere that needs some more burnishing. So anywhere that's too white. For the most part, the shadows are pretty good. So I'm mostly just going to run this kind of along the centers. Here, I'm going to go in over top of the shadows. kind of lighten them up just slightly, and then I'm going to very, very lightly kind of bring this color out into the center, but not at full opacity. Just going to kind of fade it in there. Try and make it solid on either side. And then I'm going to come in with the cream and I'm going to burnish with that. And as you can see, that lightens it up a fair bit. So it is slightly noticeable. I'm going to put a little bit of it on this one too, if it'll show up. But I think it will kind of go with everything else here. Hopefully, that's my plan anyways. Okay, so actually continuing with the cream, the next section we'll do let's do pretty much down to here. Including these two, I suppose. This is a really long one. I don't know. We'll base it. I'm not sure if we'll color it. I mean, we kind of have to because it comes all the way from up here. So again, just lightly going over everything with the cream. And then same thing, we'll start mapping out our colors lightly, starting with the burnt ochre. So for this whole side, especially these outer pieces, our shadows are not going to be as big as the shadows were on the other side. Next is the terracotta. Sienna brown. And then again, of course, we're going to skip the dark umber, go straight with the black, and we're going to come in and start putting in these shadows, which again are not going to be quite as big as we've been doing them. So I'm going to focus on just the very tips with the black. I don't want to go much more than those. I'll lightly put a little bit of black in on that one, but I'm going to have to kind of look up a reference picture to see about this little bit of hair here because it's a little confusing. So next, coming in with the dark umber, we're going to go in over top of that black. We're going to pull the dark umber out a little bit and then fade it out. Some of these smaller bits might still be in quite a bit of shadow, but for the most part, a lot of them will have a nicer, lighter highlight. Next, we're coming in with our sienna brown. Again, just a medium pressure for this one. I don't want to bring it out too far either. This area, we're pretty much just going to go completely over. Not burnishing though, because we're still going to throw some terracotta in there. Terracotta, exact same thing, just going over top of where we've already put the sienna brown. Burnt ochre, again, I'm going to go in over top of the shadows with this where I think it's necessary. I'm going to go a little bit firm out from those other colors. And then I'm going to very lightly go over those highlights, build up the color a little bit because I don't want it to be too light. I want it to still look like it's the burnt ochre, but just a lighter version of it. Actually, let's come back with the burnt ochre. I've got an idea here. I'm going to fully color in this one with the burnt ochre, this one, and these ones here, even this one. And then the rest I'm going to come in over top with the cream. That way there's a little bit of darker shadows and some lighter shadows in there. And hopefully that'll help make everything look a little bit more cohesive and not so different that it doesn't look like it belongs. Carrying on, let me just pull up a picture of this. Okay. So I'm going to do all of this part, make sure we're in frame here, all of this part here is hair except for this little tiny triangle. So this whole part here, I'm going to go in over top with the cream. And then just this little strand here. And this will be hair as well, going down to the bottom. But we'll start with that. So again, back through our colors, starting with the burnt ochre. I feel like this hair is kind of facing the inside. So it probably would be a little bit darker. But I'm not 100% sure. Terracotta. Are you guys pros at coloring hair yet? It's a lot of hair. Some pages are worse than this though, so I'm not going to complain. But I love this style hair, so this is probably like my favorite kind of hair to color, is this just beautiful wavy. I also like updos. It's just, I love it. It's fun. Flicky motion, or flicky hair is what I call it, like realistic looking hair, not my thing. This is my thing. Okay. And lastly, in mapping, anyways, we're coming with the sienna brown, threw a little bit of that in there. I think this hair is going to... Okay, so I can't remember what I was saying last time I was recording. I remember the camera cut me off when I was saying something, but Anyways, we've got our base layers down, so now we can come in and kind of finish this bit, and then we only have a little bit more hair down at the bottom, and then we're done her hair, which is awesome. So we're going to come in with the black. Again, same thing we've been doing, just in at the tips, kind of fading it out. I think this hair would be darker than the hair up here, because I feel like it's kind of on the inside, kind of covered by hair that we can't really see. That being said though, I don't want to make it too much darker, but we probably won't be using the cream for this. We'll probably just kind of do it the same as on this side maybe, or I'm not sure yet. We'll kind of see. Maybe we should make it a little bit darker. Kind of on the fence about that. But for now, just kind of wing it. That's what we'll do. I don't want to add black here. This strand I think is kind of in front of all these other ones, so. I want to kind of keep it a little bit lighter. Apologies if you can hear rain. He's puttying the walls, so it's loud to me. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up or not. Hopefully it won't take him too long to do that and he'll be done. Okay, can't forget about this strand right here. So now we can come over top with the dark umber. So we're going over top with the black and just bringing it out slightly. I think I'm going to add just a tiny little bit of this, just kind of lightly on the end here. I'm not going to go too hard. Just so it kind of matches everything else without it being too dark though. I am quite certain you guys can probably hear that. I apologize again. What do you want? I'm still mad at you. I've got them on a diet and they don't quite like that. So he thinks that it's okay to go and try to eat my plant every morning because he's hungry. But I have to say, he is looking really good. I can actually kind of see his shape again rather than just round. I love fat cats, but they're not very healthy. Okay, hold on, let's go back to the dark umber. Oh, I just forgot about this one here. Okay. Now we can go in with our sienna brown. Again, this is going to layer with the terracotta, so I'm not gonna burnish it or anything. I think I'm going to try to leave just a little bit of a highlight. Just a tiny one for the burnt ochre. This one I'll leave a little bit of a bigger highlight, of course, because that's going to make it look like it's in front. It's going to lighten it up. I wrote about this bit here too, actually, so let's go in a little bit with the black on either side if we can fit it in there, and then I think instead of going to the dark umber, I'm just going to go in with the sienna brown, so that way it's not super dark. Which one is that? So all these pencils look the same. And I'm just going to color it in with that. It's going to look close enough to match. It's just a tiny, tiny little part anyways. Okay. So now we can come in with our terracotta. And again, we're just kind of going over that sienna brown to give it a more reddish look. You want out? Come on. Do you want it? No? Now's your chance. Did she be nice? Okay, and I think I missed down here, so I'll put the terracotta here as well. So now we can come in with the burnt ochre. And on these ones here, I'm just going to completely come in over with it. This will be the last color, so I'm just going to go over until I can hardly see that white underneath. This one here, I'm going to try and leave just a little bit of a lighter area to put some cream there. It'll just lighten it up slightly, but it's not big enough that it'll be super noticeable. It'll be kind of subtle. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to leave a lighter spot for the cream as well. Still going over just lightly with the burnt ochre, but we're going to mix the cream in with it. So a little bit of cream here, and a little bit of cream here. And I'm just going to take the black pencil and I'm going to bring it down over this strand here. Just kind of make it stand apart from all of this. Okay, so now all we have left for hair is this tiny little bit right here. And probably don't need to, but let's do it anyways. We'll base our colors. So first in with the cream. Apologies if the camera shakes. Miss Lula just jumped up on the shelf. Okay, girl, you gotta lay down. Come on, down. Good girl. You listen so well. Okay, so then we'll come in with the burnt ochre. I know that some of these strands are kind of different, but for the most part, I'm going to do this whole section as one. I don't know how light this would be. I don't think the light would be directly hitting it. So I don't think I'm going to worry too much. How about leaving a super light highlight? Let's go with the terracotta next. Then the sienna brown. And then from there we can just dive on in with our black. This strand, I'm going to keep it super minimal, just because there is not much room there at all. And this tiny little bit here, I'm not going to touch that with the darker colors. I'll probably color that in with the sienna brown maybe, or even the burnt ochre, I'm not sure. Okay, dark umber. Where did I put that? There we go. So in over top of the black, fade it out. Sienna brown. Again, not burnishing with this one because we're going to bring the terracotta in over top. Leaving a little bit of a highlight there for our burnt ochre. Then our terracotta over top. And then very last we'll come in, oops, with our burnt ochre. And just finish coloring that in. And that is her hair done. Okay, so from there we're going to move on to her grass skirt, I suppose is what this is. So I've picked out some colors. Of course, I have not tried them out, but I do always encourage you guys to try out your colors before committing them to a page because, you know, if you don't like it, it's a lot easier to just change your mind and find something that you do like before putting it on paper, whereas if you put it on paper and you don't like it, it's very hard to get rid of. But I've used a combination similar to this before, so I have high hopes for it. So starting off, I'm going to kind of do this in two sections just because I don't really want to fight with this piece of paper that I have back here, which I'm going to have to for a little bit. So I'm going to get these kind of from here up done. So I'm going to come in with the indigo blue. And I'm going to make this really sketchy. So I'm just going to throw this color down. Come in anywhere that's kind of coming out from behind another piece, I'm going to throw that alongside it. This is kind of going to be our shadow color. I'm using kind of a firm pressure, but I'm not burnishing it at all because we're going to bring in another color in over top to make it green. So then we'll come in with our moss green, and I'm going to put this in over top with the indigo blue, which you can kind of see, it still gives it a blue tone, but it does turn it more of a green, which is what we want. And these slight blue tones in this skirt will kind of tie in the background, is kind of my hopes. So coming in over the blue, and then I'm also just kind of bringing the moss green out a little bit on its own as well, especially on a lot of these bottom ones that are kind of farther behind, because of course they will be darker. Whereas these ones that are kind of at the top here are going to be a lot lighter. Next, we're going to come in with the lime peel, which I'm going to sharpen mine. It's not really, sorry about the awkward arm in the way. I've got that piece of paper kind of held down in the back for now. If I move my arm, it's going to move again. I could just find a different piece to put in behind, but you know, then I feel like I'm losing losing the fight with it. Okay, so lime peel first. I'm going to go in on all of these kind of pieces behind, and I'm going to color these in completely with the lime peel. Forgot about this piece right here. Let's go back in with the moss green. Okay. Okay, and then all of these other ones where there's a little bit more room, I'm just going to come in firm, but I'm going to fade the lime peel out. And then once I've got that done, I'm going to lightly come in on all of them and still just kind of blush that lime peel in there. Not burnishing it at all, just kind of blushing it in. So our next color is going to kind of mix with it and create a lighter version. Oh, that is where I got a little bit of orange pencil, that's okay. So lastly, we come in with the yellow chartreuse. And I'm just going to put this over the ends where we just kind of lightly put in that lime peel. So I'm not going to touch any of these darker bits here. I'm going to leave them as is. I want some good variation in colors here. I'm not going to quite burnish this spot. You don't have to do this because I imagine you probably don't have orange there, but I'm just going to come in with the moss green in over top of this orange a little bit to kind of get rid of it. Okay, so we will just keep carrying on with this, doing the same thing. So back in with the indigo blue. I'm going to imagine that this skirt comes up kind of to the top of these lilies. So if there's any spots in here that you can kind of see peeking through, which I think for the most part is just this spot, and then there's one right here, but I think I'm going to imagine that this is the last one, so I think this will probably be background. Yes, let's bring this indigo blue out. Same thing as before, we'll bring it out a little bit on these top ones, but more so on the ones that are kind of in behind everything. Again, I'm doing it really messy, so I'm going to try not to overthink it. I want that imperfect look to it, so it's going to make it look even more interesting, and I feel like this already looks interesting. I love all these little bits of grass just sticking out everywhere. Okay, so that was the indigo blue. And then we'll come in with the moss green, and same thing as before, we're just going to put this in over top of the indigo blue. I'm going to create about this spot right there. So in over top, and then we can also bring it out a little bit. Be mindful, especially of the top ones though, because you want to be able to fit all of those colors if possible. It's okay if we don't, but we want to try. You can also vary your pressures, so for example we can go really dark in over the blue and then kind of fade out. Some of these, if you want them a little bit lighter, you can just fade out the pressure a little bit more. Just all depends on how dark and light you want it. But either way, with the different variations of dark and light, that's all we really want. It doesn't have to be perfect, which again is why I'm going so quick. Next, the lime peel. Again, for most of these darker ones, I'm just going to come in heavy with it. Some of the ones that kind of stick out a little bit past, we can make them a little bit lighter. Like this one here, for example, probably going to fade that lime peel out a little bit there. And then of course for our top ones, now that we know what we're doing, we can just fade out as we go. So for this one, I'm going to use a super firm pressure, and then I'm going to start fading it out here, and then just blush that green in at the tip. Here, between the two here, you can kind of see a huge difference that yellow chartreuse makes. It really does lighten up those leaves. And at the time doing it, it didn't really look like it did, but comparing the two, it definitely shows. So again, we'll come in with the yellow chartreuse, and I'm going to bring this in over top of all those little strands that we just kind of blushed over. And then we can bring it up a little bit on the top ones as well to lighten them up. There we go, there's her skirt done. So let's come up here. We'll do the same thing here. So I'm just going to bring in a little bit of the indigo blue. We're just doing this on a much smaller scale, so we don't want to put too much of one color in here. So indigo blue and then moss green. Then lime peel, which I'm going to do the exact same thing as on her skirt. I'm going to bring it in pretty heavy over top of the shadows, and then I'm going to lighten it up and just kind of blush it in on the tips. And then we can finish that off with the yellow chartreuse. And then lastly, we've got this plant right here, which I'm going to do the same, except I'm not going to pop the yellow chartreuse in there. So I'm going to come in with the indigo blue. I'm going to try and keep this indigo blue kind of close to the center if I can. And then we'll come in with the moss green. Same thing, I'm going to try and keep that kind of close to the center as well. So I'm going to go over that blue and just slightly fade it out. And then the lime peel. And I am going to kind of lighten the lime peel up around the edges, kind of blushing it in the same way that we did with the skirt, except I'm just not going to go over top of it with anything. I'm not sure if this part here is like a strand or just like a piece coming out. I think that kind of looks funny as is though, so I think I'm going to color that part in. So let's just go through those one more time. Let's pop a little bit of the indigo blue in. And then the moss green. Actually, let's just bring the moss green up a little bit, fading it out, and then we'll Pop some lime peel in there. There we go. So this is what we've got so far. I am really, really loving the palette on this one. Hopefully you guys are enjoying too, and all we have left is skin and background to do aside from her eyes and lips and details and whatnot. I am super excited to finish her, and yeah, I hope I will see you guys in the next part. Alright, take care guys. Bye!